After years of hard work in the city, Mira Okafor finally decides to return to her village, the place where her late father once built a thriving cocoa farm. She imagines walking through the fields again, the sweet earthy smell of ripe pods, the sound of birds, and the peace she had long missed. She intentionally went straight to the farm. Her small bus bumps along the dusty road leading to eBay Village, and her heart races faster with every mile. She carries only one suitcase, but inside her chest, she carries a mountain of memories, of her father's laughter, her childhood under the old mango tree, and the promise she made to restore the farm one day. For Mira, this was more than a trip home. It was a return to purpose. But the moment she steps off the bus, something feels off. The old road leading to her father's land looks different. The tall trees that once shaded the path are gone, replaced by new signposts and fresh fences. When she reaches the entrance to the family farm, her steps freeze. Where the farmhouse once stood proudly, now rises a massive construction site. Bulldozers rumble, workers shout. A tall billboard stands boldly by the gate. Mira's throat tightens. Her eyes dart across the land. Her father's cocoa trees are gone, the well is sealed, and even the red barn is missing. Confused and trembling, she rushes toward the gate, where two security men block her path. "Please," she says, voice shaking. "This is my father's farm." "Who gave you permission to destroy it?" One guard eyes her suspiciously, then says coldly, "Madam, this land no longer belongs to any Okafor. It was sold months ago to the company." Her heart pounds. "Sold? By who?" she demands. The guard shrugs. "Talk to your uncle, Chief Ebuka. He was the one who signed everything." For a moment, the world tilts. Her own uncle, the man who raised her after her father's death, had sold the land behind her back. Mira steps back, her suitcase slipping from her hand. The sound of machinery fills the air like thunder. The farm that held her family's legacy is gone. She walks toward her uncle's compound, her shoes gathering dust, her heart heavy with disbelief. Every step feels harder than the last. When she finds Chief Ebuka sitting under his umbrella, surrounded by villagers praising his business success, she struggles to hold back tears. "Uncle," she whispers, "you sold Papa's farm?" He doesn't flinch. Instead, he laughs, his golden wristwatch flashing in the sun. "Ah, Mira, that land was wasted. Your father left it to rot. I turned it into something useful." Her voice cracks. "But it wasn't yours to sell?" He waves his hand dismissively. "Everything in this family belongs to the eldest. You were a child. You know nothing about land. You should be grateful the Okafor name is now respected again." Mira feels her knees weaken. Around them, the villagers nod silently, too afraid to speak. She realizes this betrayal wasn't just personal. It was cultural, systemic, and cruel. The land her father had bled for had been erased for profit. But as the chief boasted about his smart business, Mira's tear-stained face slowly hardened. Because she remembered something her father once said, "Never fear the man who steals from you. Fear the man who doesn't know what he's stolen." And with that, a seed of determination began to grow inside her, one that would soon shake Chief Ibuka's entire world. The night after her confrontation with the new company representatives, Mira couldn't sleep. Rain drummed softly against the rusted window frames of her father's study. She sat by his old mahogany desk, the one he used to sit at every evening with a cup of black tea, whispering his dreams for the community. Out of habit, she ran her hand along the drawers until she felt a faint looseness in one of them. She tugged gently, and a hidden compartment slid open. Inside lay a faded brown envelope, sealed with wax that bore her father's initials, E.M.O. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was a contract, older than she expected, between her father's company, Ezeku Holdings, and a shell company she had never heard of. Dunwell Resources Limited. At first glance, it seemed like an ordinary business partnership, until she reached Clause 17b. It stated that in the event of death or incapacitation of Chief Ezeaku, all mineral rights and property assets shall revert to Dunwell Resources, under government-backed acquisition authority. Her father had unknowingly signed away everything. But that made no sense. Her father was too wise to make such a careless move. Something was wrong. At the bottom of the envelope was another folded paper, a handwritten letter from her father, dated just 3 days before his death. My dearest Mira, if you are reading this, then something has gone terribly wrong. There are people in Abuja and here in the state who want the land not for farming, but for what lies beneath it. I have tried to protect the community's inheritance, but I fear betrayal has come from within. Trust no one, not even those who call you family. The truth lies with the ministry's files, under the project code, Silver Dust. Signed, Papa. Mira's eyes widened. Silver Dust? She remembered seeing that code scribbled on one of the boxes the developers had brought when she arrived. Her heart pounded. Something told her this wasn't just a land deal, it was a cover-up. Determined to uncover the truth, Mira traveled to the capital the next morning, clutching her father's letter tightly. After hours of waiting, a weary civil servant whispered to her in private. That project you're asking about was never meant to see daylight. Silver Dust is not about farming, it's about lithium mining. The land under your village has one of the richest deposits in the region. But the licenses were manipulated. Someone forged your father's final signature after his death. Mira's breath caught. Forged. Yes, he nodded nervously. And the people behind it aren't just businessmen. There are government officials involved. The same ones that now claim your father's estate. The room suddenly felt colder. Mira realized this wasn't just about property. It was about corruption at the highest level. Her father had tried to fight it, and it had cost him his life. When she returned to Enugu, her father's former lawyer, Barrister Obasi, was waiting at the gate. He smiled warmly, but there was something unsettling about that smile. Mira. I was told you were asking too many questions in Abuja, he said, sipping palm wine like an old friend. Mira didn't smile back. You helped them, didn't you? You helped forge the documents. The man's face froze. Be careful with your words. But Mira didn't back down. My father trusted you. You sat at this table, you ate his food, and yet you betrayed him. He rose from his chair, cold and calm. You don't understand the power you're fighting. Walk away, Mira. If your father couldn't stop them, what makes you think you can? Her jaw clenched, tears burning her eyes. I'm not my father, she said, voice trembling with conviction. I'm worse. I'm his daughter. That night, as Mira sat in her car parked outside the family compound, she noticed a black SUV slowing down near the gate. 2 men stepped out. They weren't from around. One of them held a file marked Silver Dust Classified. Before she could move, her phone buzzed. An unknown number. You're digging too deep, Mira. Stop now, or you'll end up like your father. Her pulse quickened. She looked at the mirror. The SUV was gone. Mira whispered under her breath. No, I'm just getting started. The air in Enugu grew tense after Mira's expose went viral. The streets buzzed with chants of justice for Chief Ezekiel. But behind the noise, shadows moved. 2 nights after her broadcast, Mira's car was followed. Her allies went underground. Chike had to disappear after receiving threats. She was alone again, or so she thought. That night, while packing files into a suitcase, she found another sealed envelope, hidden beneath her father's portrait. This one was different, stamped with the ministry's crest and dated 1 day before his death. Inside was a medical report, and attached to it was a note. Ezekiel's cause of death, cardiac arrest due to poisoning. Signed, Dr. G. Okafor. Her heart froze. Poisoned? Her father had been murdered. Mira's trembling turned into stillness. A terrifying calm settled over her face. They killed him, she whispered. And they think I'll stay silent? No, not anymore. Mira reached out to Cheek again through a secure channel. Within hours, he returned, exhausted, but alive. Together, they gathered what was left of their circle, the ex-accountant, the data analyst, and Chief Nami, one of her father's old friends who had stayed loyal. They decided the only way to bring everyone down was to expose the link between Dunwell Resources and the government, including the politicians funding it. And the key was her uncle, Chief Nanutsi, the man at the heart of it all. Chiki said quietly, if you confront him, it might be the end. Mira replied, then it will be the end that begins everything. 3. The family confrontation. The confrontation took place in her father's compound, where it all began. Chief Nanaji arrived in his black Prado, unbothered, confident. When he saw Mira waiting by the old mango tree, he smirked. "You shouldn't have come back, child. You're playing a game meant for men." Mira's eyes didn't flinch. "You killed him. My father trusted you." Nanaji chuckled darkly. "Your father was a dreamer. He stood in the way of progress. That land could make us all rich. You think sentiment builds a nation?" Mira's voice cracked, but her resolve didn't. "No. But integrity does. And you buried it with him." She dropped the file on the table, the signed proof, the poisoning report, and the bank transfer showing her uncle's secret stake in Dunwell. For the first time, his smile faded. "What are you going to do with that?" he sneered. "You think they'll arrest me? I am the system." Mira leaned forward, voice sharp as a blade. "Then it's time to rebuild the system." That same night, as rain poured violently, Mira and her team streamed their live press conference, this time with new evidence. The forged contracts, the payment trail, and the autopsy showing her father's poisoning. But before they could finish, armed men stormed the location, sent by the same officials trying to silence her. Shots rang out, windows shattered. Chika pulled Mira to cover. In the chaos, Mira managed to upload the last encrypted file, the one linking the Minister of Mining to the fraudulent operation. Seconds later, the signal went live worldwide. By the time the gunfire stopped, the truth was out, everywhere. Days passed, arrests followed, the scandal made international headlines. The president ordered a full investigation. Dunwell Resources offices were raided. And Chief Nanazi, once untouchable, was caught trying to flee the country. Mira watched it all unfold quietly from her father's graveyard, surrounded by silence. She wasn't smiling. She wasn't celebrating. She was grieving, not just for her father, but for a country where truth had to bleed before it could breathe. Weeks later, Mira was invited to speak at a national symposium on integrity and governance. She stood before the crowd, dressed simply in her father's native colors, white and gold, and said, "My father believed that land was not just soil, it was soul. They took his life to steal what he protected. But justice, once awakened, doesn't die, it multiplies." Her voice trembled slightly. "We can't change the past, but we can honor it by refusing to repeat it." The hall rose in applause. Mira looked up, as if speaking to her father. "We did it, Papa. You planted truth, and it grew." Months later, the government officially renamed her father's old land, the Azaku Heritage Reserve, preserving it as both a memorial and a protected site. Mira continued to work with Chike, now leading a foundation that investigated corruption in rural communities. But sometimes, when she walked through her father's old compound, she'd still hear his voice on the wind. "Mira, the truth may sleep, but it never dies." And she would smile, softly. "I know, Papa. I'm its keeper now." Beautiful direction. Let's conclude this story with a powerful, emotional, and moral ending. One that not only closes Mira's journey, but also delivers justice in the most poetic way. This final part focuses on Chief Nandozi's downfall, showing how shame, loss, and divine retribution caught up with him after betraying his own blood. The final reckoning. The fall of Chief Nandozi. When the truth finally broke across the nation, Chief Nandozi's empire began to crumble, like an old wall eaten by termites. Once, he was the man people bowed to in the market square, the man whose convoys blocked roads. Now, no one dared to greet him. Even the same politicians who shared his table erased his number from their phones. His properties were seized. His name filled newspapers, not in praise, but in disgrace. And for the first time in his life, he tasted what true loneliness felt like. The same community he betrayed with forged documents now spat his name like poison. Old women who once knelt to greet him now hissed and crossed themselves when they saw him pass. He became a ghost walking in daylight, a living reminder that greed has no heirs. At night, Chief Nandazi couldn't sleep. He would wake drenched in sweat, hearing his brother's voice whisper through the dark. "You traded blood for silver. You thought it would make you a king?" His mansion felt like a grave. The walls seemed to echo the voices of the men he betrayed. And though his bodyguards had all vanished, one thing remained. the unbearable silence of his conscience. He tried to escape the country once more, but his name was already on the international watch list. The shame followed him everywhere, like a shadow that refused to fade. Then came the first calamity. His eldest son, who had inherited his arrogance, was arrested in connection with an online fraud case. The news went viral, and the name Nanozi became a symbol of disgrace. Then came the second blow. His company, once worth billions, collapsed overnight after investors pulled out. The third came quietly, his health. Doctors said it was stress. Others whispered it was the curse of the innocent. He began to lose his sight, slowly. The irony of a man who once saw every loophole but never foresaw his own ruin. By the time the trial ended, Chief Nandozi was a shell of himself. Bald, thin, forgotten, sitting in the same courthouse where he once bribed judges. When the verdict was read, the judge's words echoed like thunder. For greed that could not fill your soul, you sowed corruption and reaped ashes. The courtroom fell silent. Cameras flashed. Outside, crowds chanted, "Justice for Chief Ezeku." Mira stood among them, tears in her eyes, not of revenge, but of closure. She didn't need to speak. The world had already done it for her. As her uncle was led away in handcuffs, he turned once. His eyes met hers. For the first time, he bowed his head, not in pride, wrought in power, but in shame, heavy, choking shame. A year later, word spread that Chief Minadozi died quietly in prison. No ceremony, no crowd, not even a proper farewell. Only a short obituary printed in a small corner of a newspaper. But for those who knew the story, it was more than news. It was a lesson. That power without conscience leads to dust. That betrayal is a debt life always collects. And that the voice of truth, even when whispered, outlives every lie. Mira visited her father's grave that evening, flowers in her hands, and the wind was soft, almost peaceful.